political risk on our side. Police brutalities have gone viral and impact the political space on our side to continue supporting the jailers. Our support, and I'm talking about the Netherlands here, has been questioned by our headquarters, in our parliament, in media, and by our taxpayers, and we need to be able to justify the support. As many of you are aware, the Dutch support was suspended after the violence of last November and the use of a Dutch-donated police car in the arrest of Honorable Amuriat, which was captured on video. And the attention in Dutch media and politics led to the decision of our minister to suspend the support. The minister will also decide on the final payment that is still pending, and that is conditional on receiving a report on the follow-up and accountability of the violence of last year. And as such, these incidents and the lack of public accountability constitute a risk for the sector as a whole and, if left unchecked, will overshadow all the positive progress made in other areas. The COVID pandemic was already mentioned. The COVID pandemic and the subsequent lockdowns too caused significant disruption and hardship in nearly every aspect of our lives. Many of us lost friends, partners, family members or colleagues. Our deepest condolences to you on colleagues and partners who passed on from COVID or other issues during this last year. It has been an immense challenge for all of us to try to continue the work during the COVID pandemic, and I and we commend you all for the hard work and for the level of activities that were still implemented, resulting in this report we discussed today. One innovation that has helped the sector achieve its results despite the pandemic was e-justice. The provision of video tools in courts and prisons helped people access justice despite lockdowns and is a commendable innovation for enhancing access to justice. And we do hope that the Department of Public Prosecutions and the Uganda Police Force will also be included in this development in order to really provide access to justice at all levels of the justice chain. This year's theme is empowering the people, building trust and upholding rights. Trust between citizens and government is crucial for maintaining the social cohesion. It is the foundation for the legitimacy of public institutions and a functioning democratic system. Trust is important for the success of a wide range of public policies, and in the longer term, trust is needed to tackle long-term societal changes and challenges such as climate change, the citizens, youthful in Uganda, and the automation of work. It is also important to uphold human rights in the sector and providing accountability for human rights violations. On a very different note, but related to human rights, I'm very happy to announce that this year's Dutch Human Rights Tulip, an annual award to support human rights defenders in their work, advancing and protecting human rights around the world, has this year been won by the Ugandan human rights lawyer Nicholas Opio. His work is a clear example of advocating for universal human rights and providing legal support to those in need. This award is not only a compliment to Nicholas, but to all legal aid service providers and human rights defenders in Uganda. On the matter of building trust, it is encouraging to see in the report that the level of public trust in jailers has increased from 49% in 2016 to 62% in 2021. While this is a great result, the report also shows that public satisfaction with jailor services while on the increase in the past years, in 2021 recorded 69%, and with that has fallen below the 72% recorded in 2016. Public trust in the justice system is tested by a number of challenges. And one important challenge aspect is for people to know that the justice system is independent, that the letter of the law will apply to all people in equal measure, irrespective of their income or wealth, their educational level, their gender identity, age, religion, or ethnicity, and their public status. The judicial independence has, however, not increased over the past 5 years. So the judiciary has an important role to play in democracies, but an independent judiciary is of utmost importance. Independence is about all institutions of the sector. So what can the sector do to improve these levels? What is needed? Corruption, another aspect, remains a serious and endemic problem at all levels of the justice chain and is still a challenge for public trust in the sector. Corruption negatively impacts the delivery of quality services and decreases public trust, weakening the capacity of the sector to uphold and protect human rights. As 60% of Ugandans report to consider corruption in the increase, this is a concern that needs to be addressed strongly. One thing that could help ordinary citizens in accessing justice at all levels and thus improve public trust is the legal aid policy and law currently in Parliament. This would ensure adequate representation before the court, independent of the party's financial situation. And we, as development partners, continue to call for the adoption of this policy and are hopeful that it will soon be passed. Looking at JLOS now, that it is transitioning into a new Access to Justice sub-program, it's a good time for all to look back at the bigger picture. What was it that we set out to achieve at the start? How have we changed over the years? Which strategies were successful and in what areas is more needed? There have been a lot of developments since the start of JLOS. A lot of progress has been made in physically bringing justice closer to the people. 78% have access to a frontline JLOS service point within a 5 kilometers radius. This is a result the Netherlands and all the development partners are proud to have contributed to. However, when looking at the accessibility of justice, it is important to not just look at the hardware component of it, but also at the software components. Are the specific needs of marginalized and vulnerable groups such as women, children, disabled persons and refugees sufficiently addressed in their quest for justice? Are police officers, public prosecutors, judges and others in the justice chain sufficiently trained and equipped to deliver quality services? Are they easily approachable? Also, while preparing for this speech here today, I look back at what my predecessor said 3 years ago, and I noticed that some issues are still not addressed by the sector or not progressing well enough. So I'm sorry that I have to sum them up again today. And one of the issues already mentioned by the PS is the case backlog. With a strategy in place, the progress seemed promising, but currently, with 30% backlog cases in the system compared to 24% in 2016 and 70% in 2020, it is clear the strategy is not working as well as we hoped for. Of course, this increase can partly be explained by the difficulty of COVID and its lockdowns for cases to be cleared. But we need to think about a more dynamic strategy for the coming years. What do you, the JLOS leaders, think you can do together to remove these numbers? What are the JLOS advisors guiding on this? As you all know, justice delayed is justice denied. It leads to human rights violations as people continue appearing in court and their cases are not heard or concluded. People staying on remand in prisons for years, waiting for their trial, and overcrowded police cells and prisons. And on top of that, prisons are found to be one of the most at risk for radicalization, which makes it even more important to limit the time people spend on remand. Before I finish, I need to express our concerns about the increasing prevalence of sexual and gender-based violence. Violence against women and girls has escalated during COVID. This is the case globally. It was unclear whether these cases were among the cases to be prioritized. Criteria for cases to be handled during a crisis should take into account the marginalized and vulnerable groups. The increased number of teenage pregnancies due to school closures and lockdowns are staggering and will potentially cause a lost generation of women and girls who have not been able to reach their potential. This is not only a personal tragedy, but will also impact the future of Uganda as a whole, and it will limit the economic growth considerably and will hamper the achievements of different SDGs. The report shows that there is a real effort to increase interventions targeting SGBV by different institutions, which is an important development. However, it also shows challenges in convicting SGBV-related cases, lack of proper investigation, and delayed trials, which cause victims to lose morale. It is therefore of great importance to step up your efforts in targeting SGBV. As always, we, the development partners, leave you with enough to do. But with all the people that I see here today, and I know that are committed, and your commitments to the JLOS in general, you should definitely be able to rise the challenge. So I finish here. I thank you for your kind attention, and I wish you fruitful deliberations today.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. We welcome those remarks. We take in good faith and accept the criticism therein. And as government, there is always commitment, unwavering commitment to improve. Like you talked on the case backlog, government is currently recruiting judicial officers. We are likely to have almost 20 new High Court judges. We've not had that before. We are going to have the lower bench magistrates, so many. We are making positive strides to improve. We are not perfect, we are human, so we cannot be like angels. Otherwise, I thank you so much. I wish to take this opportunity to invite the Honorable Minister for Internal Affairs to give his remarks.
The Honorable Justice Mike Chivita, representing the Chief Justice, the Deputy Solicitor General and Minister of State for Justice, Your Excellency, Ambassador of the Kingdom of Netherlands, Lord Justices and Judges of the High Court, of the Courts of Judicature, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, Heads of Diplomatic Missions, Honorable Members of Parliament, if there are any present, Heads of General Institutions, Members of the General Steering Committee, Members of the District Chain-Linked Committees, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, before I engage on my formal remarks, I would like to take this opportunity to put at ease Her Excellency the Ambassador of the Kingdom of Netherlands, who is representing the generous partners. You made reference to police brutality, and I agree with you. There is no reason why the police should be brutal while the police is handling people who are engaged in expression, freedom of speech. When people are engaging in freedom of speech and manifestation, and that's their constitutional right as enshrined in our Constitution. But at the same time, Your Excellency, I would like to inform you that while it's legitimate to engage in freedom of expression and to exercise the constitutional right, it's illegitimate to engage in stepping on the rights of other people. If you are doing expression, freedom of expression, why do you go into markets to disturb those who are eking out a living by selling tomatoes? If you want to do freedom of expression, you come to Parliament, make as much noise as you want. You can even stay there for 2 days. Nobody will bother you. But if you go into markets, if you start tampering with the political rights and freedoms of others, then I think the police is right to restrain you from interfering with the rights of other citizens. Some elements in the police may be high-handed. That's regrettable. And anybody who is caught doing such should be punished. I'm sure, Your Excellency, you've heard of soldiers who've been court-martialed for the wanton killings of rioters, of people who are engaging in riotous acts. You know, it's okay to engage in manifestation, but it's illegal to riot. And Your Excellency, you know, when you ban 10 buses 100 buses in the Netherlands, you've destroyed 0.0001% of the transport system of the Netherlands. Here, when you ban one bus, that's equal to 2% of our transport system. So that's why the police guards the buses very generously. If you set a fire on a road in the Netherlands or Belgium or Germany, and the road is destroyed, it takes just 30 minutes to repair the road. Your Excellency, here when you set a fire on a road we've constructed with borrowed money and we've not yet paid back, and now because you are talking of your constitutional rights, you come and destroy the road for which we have not paid. We don't look at you very kindly. You have, you know, for you have enough to destroy and put back. For us here, we have shortage. So the little we have to guard very generously. Sometimes in the process of guarding our scarcity, some people go overboard, but that one will be handled. And We are handling it, we are paying attention. I can assure you, government does not condone abuse of citizens' rights. And as a freedom fighter, I can guarantee that that's one of the reasons why we went to fight. So we can't engage in fighting and destruction to remove one regime and replace it with ourselves in the same manner. So, Your Excellency, you can rest assured that with your cooperation and support, we shall deal with the errant actors, state actors. Point number 2 you referred to was DGF, Democratic Governance Fund. Most of us were not very familiar with. And our concern is so much money being released into society where we don't have proper mechanisms for accountability. We don't account to our people. And when we can't account to our people, I'm sure you also can't account to your taxpayers. That money comes from somebody who sacrifices to help the people of Uganda. We would be very glad if that sacrifice of the taxpayers of Netherlands is put to good use. And for us here, we also want to know that if you are going to help our people, the money you get from the donors under the DGF fund is put proper use. My greatest quarrel with this DGF thing is the people who receive the money don't account. So since I have not been able to look into the accounts, I can't accuse them of misappropriation. We are only saying let's put a proper mechanism for management of these funds so that the donors pay for value and we, the recipients, also receive value. We are only looking for transparency as far as the DGF is concerned, and we have made a lot of progress. The other day I was discussing with my colleagues, and we are finally inviting you for a discussion about how to go about DGF. Sincerely, you can't imagine Uganda, which is begging to be the ones to refuse resources. No, that's not true. We welcome the resources, but those resources ought to be put to proper use. Because sweeping that under the carpet will not make the body politic healthy. So with those few remarks, I can assure you that we are going to deal with the police. And you see, the police force is the most visible arm of government. And as you know, a moving vehicle cannot fail to raise dust. But since the police is there and represented, you know, I'll come hard on them and ensure that they behave like they do their work properly with your support. Of course, we also don't have enough manpower, as you know, like we don't have enough judges. Now, when we don't have enough judges, we don't have enough judicial officers. We don't want people arrested and put in a jail where we are not going to dispense justice. So it's better to prevent them from committing crimes, and we don't have to incarcerate them, and they overstay in incarceration. Because they still overstay because we don't have enough judicial officers. Sometimes we don't have enough police officers to investigate the cases. The prisons are overcrowded. So, Your Excellency, it's like a dog chasing its tail. It's like a dog chasing its tail. It cannot catch the tail and keeps on turning round. But I am sure the situation is improving rather than otherwise. And I welcome your constructive remarks and criticism. Thank you very much. It's my privilege to come back to the Jerus fraternity after my short leave of about a year and a half. And I thank you for joining us today to share this important occasion in the Jerus calendar. We especially welcome all those who are joining us on the online platforms. We are holding the review at the end of a very challenging year. COVID-19 has created demands on us as a sector that were not anticipated. But they also helped us test the strength of our coordination structures. Our institutions have been able to quickly adjust and respond to new demands. And in that regard, we can confirm that the 3 C's, communication, coordination, and cooperation, are strong within the sector. Today is a momentous day. Not only will we consider the performance of the sector for the year 2021, but we should also consider the overall impact that the sector has made over the 4 years of implementation of the Sector Development Plan 4, which was the framework for sector strategies and investments for the period 2017-2018 to 2020-2021. We are holding this review under the theme, Empowering the People, Building Trust, and Upholding Rights. This has been a running theme for the SDP 4 and resonates with the National Vision 2040 that seeks to consolidate the tenets of good governance, including constitutional democracy, protection of human rights, the rule of law, government effectiveness, and citizens' participation in development processes, peace, security, among others. Your Excellencies, my Lord, as you see from the detailed presentation of the report, we've worked to reach more people with our services, creating friendly interfaces that have encouraged the public to seek justice services and provide us with feedback where we've fallen short. With a wider infrastructure network, increased automation, and improved delivery in terms of disposal of cases, improvement in the reputation of offenders, and improved customer services and response to clients across the institutions, among others. We are living in a changing environment in which the demands on the justice, law, and order services institutions are numerous. Accessing justice is part of the foundation of strengthening our nation. We've made advances in addressing several areas such as reducing the distance people travel in search of justice services, simplifying and clarifying processes, identifying low-cost options for several delivery, and reducing the cost of access, as well as developing and employing automation and digital services to enhance the speed of quality service delivery. As we shift from the sector-wide approach to the program approach, we do note, however, that there are still challenges we need to address. We are working to ensure that our institutions are adequately staffed and provided with the resources and supported to adopt approaches that will strengthen the value chain in delivery of justice, law, and order services. To continue the JEROS partnership, even under program-based approach, as a special sub-program, the Access to Justice sub-program was created under the Governance and Security Program. This will enable the furtherance of the JEROS under the new dispensation. We shall work for strong collaboration between the Administration of Justice Program under the Judiciary and the Access to Justice sub-program to ensure continuity of unity of purpose. That was and remains the central pillar of the justice, law, and order services institutions. We shall not lose the JEROS trademark, and I'm happy to inform you that even under the program approach, jails shall continue to refer to justice, law and order services. After many years of preparation, we are now at the commencement of the construction of the Jails House project in Nakuru. Procurement of the contractor is ongoing and groundbreaking is expected in the first quarter of 2022. This landmark project will be a lasting legacy of Jails, as we call upon your support to ensure it's fast-tracked. We continue to emphasize the need to strengthen accountability by jails institutions and across government, and to promote the observance of human rights, respect for institutions, and the rule of law. We particularly call on all Ugandans to be tolerant of each other, respect our democratic processes, so as to ensure that we have sustained peace and security. It's in this way that we can progress towards the national goal of a modern and prosperous country. I wish to welcome our partners from the rest of government to this review. Although it's called the Jails Review, it reflects the work of the entire government as far as rule of law and justice is concerned. As we all are intertwined in this effort, whether it is the shared delivery of services such as health, education, water, or in the provision of financial and technical support, we look forward to renewed and strengthened partnership under this new dispensation. I wish to welcome our development partners with whom we have worked closely and tirelessly to achieve the successes we have registered so far. Your commitment to Jails is appreciated, and we are glad to note that this support and collaboration is continuing to grow. To all our partners from the civil society and private sector, we look forward to your feedback and comments today, which we believe will make the sector stronger and inform our future endeavors. Once again, I thank you for gracing our invitation and look forward to your active participation in this annual review. I now take this opportunity to invite the Honorable Chief Justice or his representative to make his keynote address. I thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Internal Affairs, the Honorable the Deputy Attorney General, Chairperson of the Jails Partners Group, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, my lords, members of the diplomatic corps, honorable members of Parliament, heads of Jails institutions, permanent secretaries, members of Jails Steering Committee, and the technical committee, partners from civil society and the private sector, invited guests, both physical and those online, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I bring you greetings and apologies from the Honorable, the Chief Justice, who was not able to be with us here this morning. He has requested me to represent him. I therefore proceed to read his speech. It is an honor to join you today at this final annual performance review of the justice, law and order sector. This is an opportunity to wind up this framework that has existed for the last 21 years as a mechanism to promote the rule of law, ensure access to justice and maintenance of law and order, as we transit into the programmatic approach to planning. In the course of these past 21 years, we have registered significant achievements, which we will reflect on during this review. We have also seen significant growth in our appreciation and awareness of the rule of law and the role of the institutions in administering justice and fostering an orderly society. The impact of the long-term investments can be seen in this most recent performance report and reflect a sustained and systematic process of reforms and innovations. Under the Strategic Development Plan 4, and in line with the overall goal of promoting the rule of law, we have seen the level of public trust in the JELOS rise from 42% to 62%, and public satisfaction in services delivered is at 69%, despite the events of the last electioneering period. The Uganda Human Rights Commission also maintained its A status. Through a committed infrastructure development plan, over 78% of the population can now access a frontline JELOS service point within a 5-kilometer radius. According to an independent evaluation of the implementation of the 4th Sector Development Plan by Messrs. Reeve Consult, Ugandans are now highly aware of the frontline JELOS institutions. It is reported that 96.8% of the population were aware of the Uganda Police Force. 93.5% were aware of NIRA, 83% aware of the Uganda Prison Service, 66.3% aware of the courts of judicature, and 57.3% aware of the Directorate of Citizenship and Immigration. With this increased awareness, more people are seeking out the services of the frontline institutions. They still need, though, to increase the ease of physical access through more service points. The focus has been to cover every district, and indeed, 74.3% of the districts existing at the time of the launch of the SDP4 now have a functional one-stop service point. As you may be aware, the number of districts have, however, increased, and they need to be provided with the necessary services. In addition, it is critical that services are extended beyond the districts to the sub-county and ultimately to the parish level. In this respect, every Ugandan will be able to reach these essential services within their immediate community. This requires continued collaboration and prioritization of these efforts, and I call on the government to ensure that the justice institutions are provided with the necessary resources, human and financial, to achieve this aim. Justice and law and order are the cornerstones of a peaceful, stable, safe, and transparent society, which in turn forms the bedrock of a prosperous country. In addition to the infrastructure and human resource development, the sector embraced technology and innovation as a critical means to improve efficiency and effectiveness of service delivery. The use of technology and automated business processes has increased across the sector from 12% in 2016 to 46% currently. Key innovations that have been undertaken are expected to be game changers in the justice system. This includes the electronic court case management system that is being rolled out in the judiciary. The process to connect these information systems and an integrated information system is ongoing and will ultimately expedite the move to e-government and enhance the communication, coordination, and cooperation across institutions. Our ultimate objective is to ensure that quality justice is served to every Ugandan through means that are affordable, accessible, and equitable. This report and the evaluation of the past 4 years indicates that we are on track. There are still, however, several obstacles that are yet to be overcome. Crime continues to be a challenge to society. While overall crime has reduced, certain categories have been on the rise. These include domestic violence, sexual and gender-based violence, and mob justice. These particular categories of crime reflect the mindset of our society and highlight critical challenges in the justice system, including the speed of case disposal. These continue to be areas that we need to address. While we have introduced processes to support the speedy disposal of cases, such as plea bargaining, we need to strengthen access to legal aid through our clinics and by the provision of critical legal assistance at all points of the justice system. It is in this way that we can ensure that every person who is in need of this support can access it in line with their constitutional right to a fair hearing. The fight against corruption has been strengthened through increased capacity building and enforcement of laws, together with a heightened focus on asset recovery. The war on corruption is still, however, far from over and requires a sustained and collective effort to sustain the gains that have been made so far. The jealous anti-corruption agencies continue to play their role to support the national efforts. Indeed, the 4th National Integrity Survey report stated that the gains achieved in combating corruption are mainly attributed to investigation and prosecution of corrupt officials. Our agencies are committed to continuing in this spirit, even under the program approach. As we transit into this new planning cycle, it's important that chain-linked approach with emphasis on the 3 C's: communication, coordination, and cooperation is sustained to ensure that the gains of the past 4 years and those of the entire 21 years of JELOS are not lost, but instead for the foundation of a strong and resilient justice system that will meet the needs of every Ugandan. I thank all those who have worked tirelessly to ensure that the sector-wide approach for the justice system has become a byword for collaboration and innovation. I trust that the partnership and collaboration will continue. I thank our partners throughout government and our development partners for the continued support, and I look to further collaboration towards further securing and promoting the rule of law in Uganda. I thank you all for attending today and wish you all fruitful deliberations. It's now my honor to declare the 26th JELOS Annual Performance Review open for God and my country, signed Honorable Justice Alphonse Chigamoy Owiny-Dollo, Chief Justice of Uganda. There ends the speech. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Your Lordship. Our next item is a group photo. However, I wish to mention that while we all work towards improving justice, our next item is the launch of the group of the reports and then a group photo. As said, the government has made strides in recruiting and improving or beefing up the judiciary. However, to our development partners, I wish you to note that this has had a trickle-down effect, because the judiciary works with the office of the DPP, and it's not complete without the office of the Attorney General or Minister of Justice. That too is not complete without the police. So there are some sectors that need a lot of support in order for justice as a whole to be achieved. Our next item, like I said, is the launch of the reports. Can we be guided on how it's going to be done?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Chair, we will request our chief guest and the honorable ministers and the High Excellency, the Ambassador, to step forward and we do a symbolic launch of the reports. One, we shall begin with the launch of the annual report 2020-2021, and that will be followed by the launch of the end-line evaluation of the Sector Development Plan 4, and then finally we'll launch the Access to Justice Program Strategic Plan for 2021 to 2025 in that order. Our chief guest will symbolically cut the tape to signify the launch of the report. And there we go, Chief Justice cutting the tape to launch the sector annual report 2020-2021, the very last report under the 4th sector development plan. We will also sign the report. We will also request the honorable ministers to do the same, and then Her Excellency the Chief of the Jealousy Development Partners Group as well. This is part of our processes to account. A bigger hand clap. I will request the Chief Justice to hand over a copy of the report to the Honorable Minister of Internal Affairs on behalf of the Jealousy Leadership Committee, and then one copy shall be handed over to the Chair of the Jealousy Development Partners Group as part of accountability. That report covers one financial year. We are happy to report that an independent consultant has evaluated our performance over the 4 years of implementation of the Sector Development Plan 4, and we will also take this opportunity to request our chief guest to formally launch this independent evaluation report for the Sector Development Plan 4. He has already cut the tape, a bigger hand clap. And we will request our chief guest to also sign and make sure that whatever we have is a true record of the performance of the sector under the 4 years of implementation of the Sector Development Plan. Remember, this is an independent evaluation. The annual report is made in-house, but the evaluation was by an independent person, and so the idea is to make sure that we have some other person take a closer look on what we have done, and also ensure that we collect stakeholder views to show to us the extent of achievement of the impact of our investments. The independent evaluation report has stakeholder views. It also has their opinions on what they see and how they rate the performance of the sector over the 5 years, over the last 4 years. Our chief guest will hand over a copy to the Minister of Internal Affairs for the Leadership Committee and a copy to the Jealous Development Partners Group. Now that we have evaluated our past performance, it is important to make sure that we continue growing and going forward. Even under the new dispensation, we have, as stakeholders, prepared a roadmap on what we want to do over the next 5 years of implementation of the National Development Plan 3. And it's now our opportunity to share with the public what we intend to do as the Access to Justice sub-program over the next 5 years. And this is amplified in the new Access to Justice sub-program strategic plan. The Access to Justice sub-program replaces the Justice Law and Order sector arrangement under the sector-wide approach. So welcome our new sector development, our new Access to Justice sub-program strategic plan 2021-2025. Big thank you to all of you. We'll make sure that copies of these are available to all of us. We request the honorable ministers to sign this, especially the foreword of this report, of the strategic plan, because it's a commitment of what we are going to do over the next years. We reiterate that this strategic plan has been discussed by the sector management structures and approved for purposes of its implementation starting this financial year. We therefore call upon our partners, the development partners, to use it as a blueprint in the preparation of the new country strategies for Uganda and to support the Justice Law and the Access to Justice sub-program so that the gains we have made under the Justice Law and Order sector are not lost. I thank you so much. Allow me to hand over to the chair. Chair was communicating something earlier on before we interrupted with this process. But I want to thank you, all of you. Thank you, our chief guest. Thank you, the honorable ministers. Thank you, Your Excellency, for making this possible, especially the fact that we are able to account and also show where we are going moving forward. Thank you so much. Over to you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Sam and Rachel. So far, so good. Our next item is a group photo. Before we have a tea break, I would still request Sam and Rachel to guide us on where that group photo should be taken, with SOPs, of course.